one of the rooms that many of you wanted me to visit was the room that OCD Mikey put together with his Fisher and Fisher speakers, and also I believe his Jeff Roland amplifier, the new one that was launched not long ago, and playback designs. Okay, I know that's one of the rooms many of you wanted me to talk about, and so I'm here to give you additional context. I couldn't do it there. I had to move through the room quickly. I had many rooms to go. I was actually behind. As I said earlier, if I am taking this job because I see it as a job now, okay, it started as a hobby, but now it is a job that I take very seriously. If I am there to be a professional, I don't care what kind of differences we've had or beef we've had in the past, or anything, any conversations that may have occurred between any manufacturer and myself. If I am going to do this the right way, I am going to give everyone a fair shot and airtime, and I'm going to visit the room and talk about it in a professional way. So the room that OCD Mikey put together was not the best room because of the size of the room. Now, hear me out before you say, oh my God, he said your room is not the best. Let me explain further. First of all, it was very tight, very packed. The sweet spot was a room that was up against the wall. Okay. He had to do what he could in a room that was unfortunately not the best. I don't think anyone could have done any better in that room, if I'm being honest. I don't think so. I don't think, regardless of the brand, I don't think anyone may have done better than what he did. That's the truth. So he did what he could. Okay. Sonically speaking, it's not my cup of tea. The small feeling that I got from the system was that it's a system that's not about ultra high definition. It's not about the smallest details. It's not about all the nuance that I typically like to hear from my systems. This room was more about, here's the music. It's very smooth, very relaxed. You get a feel for what's being played, but it never really mastered anything. It didn't give me the biggest dynamics. It didn't give me the most incredible extension when it comes to the top end. It didn't do that. Now, is that a fault of the room or the system? I'm going to say it's probably a combination of both. It could have been a combination of both. Also, remember, he had speakers next to each other, which doesn't help the performance. So, the conditions were less than optimal for me to be blown away. Okay. Now, if he had been in a larger room downstairs with more space, more chairs, it may have been a better presentation. I had no doubt that would have been the case. But I am sure Mike decided to head out to the show probably very last minute. There were not more rooms available, so he took whatever was available to him that fit his budget. So I can't knock him for that. For me, overall, the presentation isn't my cup of tea. But that doesn't mean his room was bad or it wasn't to anyone's liking. Now, if you're hearing from people out and about, I've seen comments in the forums where they're saying his room wasn't all that, it sucked, it was bad, it was really veiled, it was dark, that you can hear the cabinet of the speaker, it was boxy sounding. If you hear comments around the internet that are along those lines, then ask those people if they were there, find out if they were there. All I can say is, holistically, it was not for me, but it wasn't bad. About a few weeks ago, actually, a couple of weeks ago, I went to London for pleasure. And while I was there, I talked to my wife and I said, listen, let's go to this store that I found on my phone. It seems to have a lot of premium brands. It's supposed to be a very good store, had a lot of great reviews. Google reviews were great. So we drove with, we took an Uber, drove over there. And luckily, they didn't have anybody there on a appointment. And so they were able to talk to me. I spoke to the manager. Jason, you guys should have seen that video by now. If you haven't seen that video, please check out the video of my visit in this hi-fi store in London. I had a real deep conversation about the industry with him. Some things I cannot share with you, of course, because can't kiss and tell. That's not what you do. But what I can tell you is this. I expected for the average English audiophile to love B&W speakers, Harbeth speakers. And I'm not going to say they don't love those brands because they are clearly local products, right? But I did not expect to hear that Wilson Audio is at least in this particular store, essentially 80% of the sales when it comes to loudspeakers. That is massive, guys. That is massive. That is a significant amount of sales. If 80% of your sales are Wilson Audio speakers, that means 8 out of 10 speakers you sell are a Wilson Audio speaker. And now, mind you, I'm sure this is not because they are simply not trying to sell Focal or they're not trying to sell, Sonos Faber. I'm sure they're trying to sell those too. But the feedback I got is that every time they put a Sonos Faber or they put perhaps, a Focal or whatever the case may be, it seems as if people continue to want to hear the next Wilson Audio and they end up pulling out the credit card and buying a Wilson Audio speaker. To me, it was surprising because I expected less traction overseas from Wilson Audio. Clearly, I am beyond wrong. Whatever Wilson Audio is doing at the factory, whatever training they're doing worldwide, whatever perception they're building, whatever image they're building, seems to be working across the globe. To me, that was quite surprising, but not a shock. What's shocking is that other brands seem to continue to be left behind by this iconic loudspeaker brand, American loudspeaker brand. Some of you are extremely brutal attacking the brand because you hate the way it looks. You despise the odd shape that it has, where you're saying it's not a timeless design. It's not as pretty as Magical M series loudspeakers. Yes, I agree. The M series from Magical, whether it be the new M7, M9, M3, are absolutely stunning, timeless pieces. You can have an M series loudspeaker from Magical for the next 10 years, and it'll probably be prettier than anything else that we may have a decade from now. Okay, so there's no lying in that. But to hear you guys attack the brand based on looks alone is very disappointing because we're evaluating brands based on performance. Now, of course, if for you the looks are just as important, that's a different conversation altogether because I believe that the best looking brands are not always the best performers. That's just simple. That's just how it is. Perfect example. Look at the new Tesla Cybertruck. It's an ugly truck, but it outperforms any other truck out there, even those that look good doing it, right? Again, it's a perfect example. So if you can just take a step back and look at Wilson Audio as a whole and what the brand is about, what they have accomplished, going as far back as 1980, right? And what Dave Wilson built, I got to tip my hat to them. By the way, Wilson isn't, I want to share this in confidentiality, but I'm going to have to make it public. If I'm being honest, Wilson isn't also 100% accepted by a lot of reviewers, magazine reviewers. Some of them also don't like the brand, whether it be because of the quality of the drivers that are not drivers that cost $2,000-$3,000, or perhaps the felt that it has on the front, this carpet on the front that you see, or the aesthetics. I have heard it all. I have heard from reviewers in confidentiality that they don't like Wilson Audio in some cases. But you also have reviewers like, Robert Harley, Michael Fremer, and I think there's another guy with Wilson Audio speakers, and they don't seem to be looking back. I simply have liked what Wilson Audio does, clearly because I've owned 8 to 10, probably 9 pairs of Wilson Audios, but I also like what Magical does. I've owned Magicals. I like what Focal does. I just think they're different. Okay. So when you think about this brand and the hatred that many people have for it, I would say that sometimes it's just unjustified. It's simply sore feelings, either because they cannot afford it, or because it's not available in their homeland, or because It's another American brand, and we need to hate on it.